Welcome to the Creative Force Podcast, a podcast all about empowering you to live in your God-given identity and go after the dreams in your heart. I'm your host, Sharon Stark, and every week we'll be having powerful conversations that will combine practical and biblical wisdom for living your purpose. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Creative Force Podcast. I'm here today with Selina Almodovar. She is a relationship coach, YouTuber, and four-time author. It's really an honor to have you on the show, Selina. Can you share with the audience a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me here. You kind of said the basics, the author, the coach, all of that. I'm also happily married to my husband of 10 years. I have three small children, ages 7, 5, and 2. And I've been doing my coaching, author, book business for the same length of time that I've had a family and a marriage for 10 years. And I think God did that on purpose. Fun facts about me. I'm from the Midwest, Cleveland, Ohio, and I am a huge fan of Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and Marvel and all of those things. I really nerd out on those movies and those TV shows.
That's awesome. I love it. And you work as a relationship coach. You mentioned that. So how did you first get started in this journey of doing that?
So it's really interesting because my background, I went to school, I have 2 degrees, and they are both in health administration. And I thought I was just going to get a nonprofit or a corporate job, an administrative job in a hospital setting somewhere. And right around the time that I left college and I started to, do my big girl job and climb the corporate ladder, was when I met my husband. And it was also the same season that I started to really focus on my relationship with God, to start taking it seriously and to start walking in a lifestyle that honored him and that made him one of the biggest values of my life. Whereas before I knew God, but I wasn't living that lifestyle. And so it all just kind of correlated all together. I ended up getting laid off from my position as an after-school health and wellness coordinator the same week that I got engaged to my husband.
Oh my goodness.
It was a crazy whirlwind. And, because I was so fired for God and I had this faith and I was just like, God's going to find something. He's going to open the door. And nothing was happening. I wasn't getting a new job. And, weeks turned into months, months turned into seasons. And finally, I just felt the nudge. Maybe I'm called to start my own business. This was back in 2012. This was back in, it was very new. Online business was new. YouTube was new. Instagram wasn't even around yet. And I just felt the punch to do that. So naturally, I'm going to use what I have. I have 2 degrees in health administration, and I was seeing a life coach at the time to just kind of help me. So I really wanted to merge those 2 things together. And I found an online course and certification program to help me become a certified holistic health coach. So I began as a health coach.
Yeah.
But, and that was going great. I built up the business. They taught me how to do the coaching part. They taught me how to do the online business part. I thought I had everything I needed, and I was getting really good clients, and I was doing workshops around the neighborhood, getting published in local newspapers and magazines, but it was not fulfilling me. I did not like my job. I wanted to quit my job. And I was really feeling guilty because I felt God told me to do this and I'm doing it, but I'm not happy. And so does that make me not happy with God's blessings? And I really wrestled with that for a long time. But at the same time, the health setting that I was placed in didn't really talk about Christians. It was a lot of health, there was a lot of wellness, but there wasn't a correlation between my faith and the food I ate and the lifestyle that I was trying to live in holistically. And so I felt, in order to keep the clients, I'm going to keep my faith to myself. Or in order to grow online, I'm not going to share my faith. I'm only going to talk about the health part and the wellness part. And that part, that is what was the thing that I was struggling with the most. And so one thing led to another. I just got into my prayer room, my prayer closet, And I was really wrestling with God about what am I supposed to do? I built this corner office, and that is that I'm living the dream. I don't work anymore. This is my job, but it's not fulfilling me. So what do I need to do? And I really heard God tell me, where did you see me the most? Where did I make the biggest transformation in your life? And it was my relationship with my husband. It was the very first Christian marriage I ever had, or a Christian relationship I ever had, modesty and purity. And, we didn't kiss until our wedding day. And so all of those things just really transformed my faith. It transformed the way I view relationships. It transformed the way I see God's love and how we need to apply God's love. And so from that moment, that is when I pivoted everything. I did a complete brand change, a complete career change, and I shifted to relationship coaching. And so I've been doing that ever since 2014 was when I made the official switch from health and wellness to relationship. And now I don't go a day without talking about my faith, because that is what makes me grounded and rooted. And if God created this, then I'm going to give it back to him by sharing that testimony and by helping others lean on their faith to have those thriving relationships that they've been praying for.
I love it. I love that the area that God transformed you the most is the area that he called you into to minister to others. That is so powerful. And you've been in this online space for a really long time. What are some of the lessons that you've learned just over this time period?
So many lessons. I don't think we have time for all of them, but just the one that really is sticking out of my head is you can learn a lot for free. Everything is figure outable. Marie Forleo, which, by the way, she is an excellent business coach. And I actually took her class, the B School, if anybody is aware of it. But everything is figure outable. So if you truly want to learn how to set up a website, if you truly want to learn how to do Facebook ads or write a book and publish it, you can find it out. You can go online and you can go on YouTube and you can go on Google and you can search. But what that's going to do is it's going to pull you away from the thing that you should be doing. You're going to spend so much time in research and in trying to figure it out for free that it's almost going to cost you more with your time, because you're stuck not doing the thing that you were called to do. And so, yes, everything can be figured out. And you could do most of it for free, but at some point in your timeline, you are going to have to invest. You're going to have to invest in a coach. You're going to have to invest in an assistant. You're going to have to go on Fiverr.com and have someone do some edits for you or transcribe for you. It just helps you get further along a little quicker. It helps you learn some skill sets or some mindset shifts or some programs or some software that you would have never have found on your own, or you probably would have 20 hours later, And so I always like to say, don't knock the free knowledge that's out there, the content and the value, but also don't knock when you have to invest to get where you want to go. You need to invest to get where you want to go. And so both of them work. It's just in the setting that you're in, you have to learn when to do one and when to do the other.
Wow, that's really, really good wisdom. That's amazing. I really appreciate that. Did you ever struggle with imposter syndrome when you first got started?
Absolutely. 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 100%. I still do to this day.
Yeah.
To this day, I think on YouTube, I have 650,000 views, and I'm just like, nobody's going to want to hear what I have to say. I think we all struggle with it because, especially as Christians, we don't want to appear to have all the answers, because we know that we're imperfect and we know that we make mistakes. We are constantly growing and evolving to become better versions of ourselves. And so I think with that mindset, we are constantly feeling as though we are not enough. And you're absolutely right. We will never be enough to press the live button or to go on the webinar, to start the podcast, to write the book. But that is why you need to be so connected to God, because God is going to continuously remind you and pour into you. For example, I just launched my second membership for single Christian women to help them in their faith during this season. And I sat on this idea since 2018. I
Oh,
did not
wow.
want to do it. I didn't
Yeah.
want to do it because I didn't think I was equipped. I didn't think I had the funds to have the right software or to have the right, recording equipment. I didn't think that I was capable to do it. And so I didn't. And it got to a point where God just kept pushing me and pushing me closer to the
Yeah.
edge, very gently, but this so far close to the edge that I had no choice but to jump, and I feel like when you have the imposter syndrome, you feel all of the doubts and you feel all of the fears and the shames and stuff like that. But at the same time, God's going to keep you where you are, but he's going to also gently nudge you to say,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I hear you. He's not going to coddle you. He's not going to be like, oh yeah, you're right. You're right. You're so right. You're not ready. Let's give it another year. Like, no, he's going to be like, okay, we'll do this now. Okay. Try this now. Okay. Collaborate with this person now. And eventually there's going to be a shift in your mind. There's going to be a shift in the atmosphere that's going to let you believe, you know what? I have been doing this for a long time. And you know what? It doesn't matter what people think about me or what people have to say or critique. People critique me all the time to this day about what I say and how I say it and what I do, because I'm a city girl. So sometimes my city sass comes out and people don't like that. I'm Puerto Rican and sometimes my Latino things come out and people don't like that. Sometimes I'm not Christian enough. Sometimes I'm too Christian, being
Mm.
modest and pure. Sometimes it's too much, and people always will have something to say.
Yeah.
And especially, in the comments section and in my YouTube channels, I always had comments and I used to just shrivel up and be like, oh, I'm not good enough for this. And
Yeah.
I would stop my calling. But eventually God just said, just clap back and keep it moving. Like, we have things to do. We
Yeah.
have a mission to complete. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to clap back and keep going. And, eventually there will be a shift in your mindset that will allow you to believe I have been here long enough. And it doesn't matter what the new people say, or it doesn't matter what the old people say, because I'm doing something for God, not them. And as long as I'm obedient in that, then nothing else matters because I did my part and
Wow.
God will do the rest.
Amen. That's so good. You said so many good
Yeah.
things in there, like being obedient to your calling
Yeah.
and yeah, just staying focused on that. And you've written and published 4 books. So can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about your books?
Yes. So if you're out there and you're writing a book or you want to write a book, there's so many ways that you could stop yourself because you don't know about the market or you get overwhelmed with the process of it. And again, I did my very first book was self-published. It was through Amazon. This was when Amazon and the KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, this was when it was two separate things. So I had to deal with two
Okay.
separate. Okay, now they're merged and it's really easy to get into. But again, everything was free for me at the time.
Yeah.
So I Googled it, I figured it out. And what I did at first was I shared my story. Okay, so if you're just stuck in, I don't know what to write. I know I'm called to write, but I don't know what to write. You start with the thing you know best. You start with, I can tell this story forwards, backwards, side to side, front and out. I can tell this story. You start with your story. You start with an outline.
Yeah.
Okay. You can even, at this point, here's a gem. At this point, you could even use
Yeah.
Chat GPT to say, I am an author. I want to write a story about blank. What are 10 questions that you need to know to help me develop an outline to create my story? Chat GPT will give you your questions. You'll answer the questions so that they get a better understanding of what should be included in your story. You could say, I want this story to be 10 chapters long. I want to have a takeaway at the end of it. I want to have a Bible verse to complete it. And Chat GPT will give you a structure, not the whole thing. We're not cheating here. It's going to
Yeah.
give you a structure of something that you could use if you want that. If you have it already, I mean, all of my self-published books, I wrote out in a journal. My first 2 books, the Single Woman's Prayer Book and the Engaged Woman's Prayer Book, those are all journal entries that I just wrote. And I hired an editor because I was afraid of my grammar and my spelling. And then I used that PDF to upload it to Amazon, which then became a book. I hired a friend who could do my my cover stories. But nowadays you can just go to Canva and just type in book cover templates, right? And you'll get a whole plethora of templates that you can use, just like GPT, to give you a template, and you can use it. You pray about it. Go to your prayer closet. Never leave your prayer closet when you're trying to write a book. Okay. And just get that insight, get that vision. And then you upload it as a PDF onto Amazon and you have a book. Congratulations, you're an
Wow.
author.
Wow. I feel like, man, you're bringing so much value. Like you broke that down in such a like a simple, clear way. It's like anybody could follow those steps and get started. But I think a lot of
Yeah.
times really it's our mind that's kind of holding us back and
Yes.
like the limiting beliefs. Did you have any like thoughts that were holding you back from publishing your first book?
Absolutely. My book is a prayer book. They were all my vulnerable prayers. They were all just, I don't know if people are going to receive this, but I felt like I'm just going to do it because in my single season, I needed to work on my prayer life, and I didn't have a prayer life. And so I said, if there was anything that I could leave this earth with, like
Yeah.
just thinking in present tense, if there was one thing I can give to the world, what would it be? I said I wanted to teach them how to pray in this area because there's a lot of guys who are busters and they need to know how to pray against them. The end. That was my only
That's great.
thought at the time back in
Yeah.
2016. And so I did it. And I think a lot of the times we overthink
Mm,
that people aren't going to like us and receive us.
mm.
And that's very true. There will be somebody in the midst of 6 billion people who are not going to like you, who are going to say every bad thing about you, who are going to critique you. They're going to try to cancel you. And you have to get past that, because there's somebody on the other side of that person who is going to cry tears of joy that their answered prayer is in the
Oh,
form of you and what you have brought to their space.
wow.
So
That's powerful.
instead of thinking about the naysayer and the critiquer, you have to think behind that person is the other person who is
Yeah.
like, thank God she came because I needed her right on time. She is
Wow.
giving me everything that I've been praying for. So when you do your projects and when you go out there in the online space, think of that person. Think of the person who's been praying for you.
Wow. Man, that just like literally like I have like goosebumps like that like literally touches me so much. It's so
Yeah.
important to think of that person and to do
Yes.
what God is telling you to do. That is awesome. When it comes to coaching, like if someone is interested in finding a coach or actually becoming a coach, what advice would you give them?
There are so many coaching courses and certifications out there. And a lot of the times people get confused with, well, I'm not certified, or I don't have a degree in counseling, or
Mm.
I need to go back to school. There
Yeah,
is a difference between a coach and a counselor. Okay.
that's
A
important.
There's right. It's very important. There's thousands of dollars in degrees and accreditations and all these things can determine the two things. A counselor is skilled in understanding the mind, is understanding the behaviors. They're going to talk through you. They're going to do some deep layer work. A coach is somebody that you can hire to help support you and keep you accountable, and that will help you get to the next step.
Mm,
Okay. And so there's various forms. You could be a health coach and get to know how to coach somebody holistically, mind, body, spirit, right? There's life coaches. There's relationship coaches. It really doesn't matter what your title is. What matters is how you help someone get one step ahead. That's it.
wow.
And I didn't go to college to become a relationship coach. I went to college to be an administrator. And so you want me to write some stuff down and file it? I got you. I am qualified to file some stuff down and run an office at your leisure. That is what I got a degree for. But as a coach, it's more personal and it's more relatable, because I can intersect my life and my testimony into how I can teach you in these certain areas of your life. You know what I mean? And so when you do want to become a coach, like I said, figure out which kind of coach you want to be, and don't mull over the fact that you need the degree, you need the certification, you need all these things, because nowadays anybody can sell anything on the internet. And as long as your story is true and your character is genuine, people might want to follow you. They might want to pay a price or a service to hear from you and to learn how you did it so that it can inspire them to do it as well. We got to stop thinking too much about it and just do what God called us to do.
Yeah, amen. And we really need coaches in our lives. We need people who
Yeah,
are one step ahead of us, who have already walked that path that can really make our journey easier and just help us along the way. How has
absolutely.
like mentorship and coaching like really made a difference in your life?
It's so interesting because as mentors, I always found it, when I first began my lifestyle with Christ, it was really hard for me to find a mentor.
Yeah.
And I would go on coffee dates with all of these women in my church, and I would just be like, okay, like I want you to pour into me. And they never really did. So I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'll just keep chasing Jesus instead of you guys. And it was really hard, which also went into the imposter syndrome of being a coach. Like, nobody's going to want to listen to me, and nobody's going to care about this, and they don't need me, mentors and all that stuff. But what happens is, so to take it to a church perspective, if you are in a church setting and you have a spiritual mother, you have a mentor, then they're pouring into you. They're discipling you, right? They want you to get closer in your faith and to do life together with you. A coach then becomes like a personal trainer. You pay them a price to meet with them so that they can stretch you, so that they can grow you, so that they can move you into the place that you desire to be in a certain area. So as a Christian relationship coach, I am kind of combining the two. It's like a spiritual godmother with your personal trainer and your relationship, expert all rolled into one. I'm stretching you in your faith, and I'm helping you grow in a relational sense, emotionally and mentally and spiritually, so that you can develop something that you want, which is whatever that relationship status is, so that it is anchored and centered in Christ, because
Mm.
he is the ultimate person who has the ultimate answers to
Amen.
everything that you need in your relationship, in your singleness, in your marriage, and thereon, and everything else after.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to I think sometimes a lot of people like they hesitate at like paying a price, but I think it's so
Yes,
important to pay that price and to invest in yourself because first of all, when you're doing that, you know that the person that you're getting that service from, they're very invested in you and it costs you something. And so because it costs you something, you are really going to put more into it. And I think that's
absolutely.
so important and so valuable. Can you tell
Absolutely.
us too about, you mentioned earlier you have a course for single women. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, so I did one-on-one coaching for a very long time,
Yeah.
and it was a high ticket offer. I'm not going to lie, because I'm paying into my time. I have 3 children, so it
Yeah.
was a high ticket offer, but I couldn't do that long term because I couldn't help a lot of people. Even if I had 10 clients, that's 10 hours of my week that I'm getting taken from my children, my family. And so I developed a membership course, which is ultimately a first phase of a long 3-part phase thing. And I wanted to start with single women because in order for you to learn how to have a relationship that is anchored in Christ, you have to get that anchoring into you first as an individual, as a single person. And so I wanted
Yeah.
to start there. And the very first membership that I created was the Single by Faith Society. This is where women who are of faith can take their existing faith where they are right now, and they could begin to practically build their foundation for their next relationship. Okay, so I'm helping you get deeper in your walk with God. I'm helping you redesign what your love life looks like, what to look for in a husband, what you should be living out as a wife worthy woman. And then I teach you how to apply your faith into an early stage of a relationship, conversation starters. Should you continue this relationship? Where is it
Hmm.
going to go? But I needed more. So there are some women who just aren't practically ready to take steps. There are some single women who are not ready to trust in God like that and dive all in. So that is where I created a lower tier membership. It's only $7 a month, and it is called
Oh,
the
wow.
Single by Faith Discipleship. And this is strictly focusing on your mindset. What do you need to do to overcome your fears and your doubts as a single woman? What does it look like for you to totally surrender to God, that He has you in this single season for a reason, that you are in a purposeful place. You're not here by defect or default, but you are here to understand that God has you here for a reason. That is what that membership is for. So it's a little more, not as heavy in application. It's not as heavy with group coaching and the live sessions, but it is something to get you in the right headspace and in the right heart space to then receive and then to take action, which would then give you access into the upper membership, the society membership. And from there, say you're done being single, right? And you meet someone, then next year, my husband and I are going to be working together in a ministry called Love by Faith Ministries. And we are going to help Christian couples develop a solid foundation that they could then start building on with an engagement in marriage and premarital counseling and coaching for couples and that nature. So that's all happening later in life, God willing.
Yeah.
But for now, the foundation that we have was the society for the women who want to take action and the discipleship for the women who just need to be in the right headspace. Those two things are offered and available now.
That's super, super exciting. Can you share with all the listeners, like where can they find like all this information about you? Where can they find your books and where can they find your courses?
It's easy and it's hard at the same time because everything is under my name, Selina Almodovar. If you search on Google, you'll find everything. It's on YouTube, Selina Almodovar, Pinterest, Selina Almodovar, my website, Selina Almodovar. The hard part is how to spell my name. So in the descriptions, you can find it there. You will find access to me from Instagram, Threads, YouTube. My shop is there. My free resources for single and Christian couples are available all at selinaalmodovar.com. And I like to hang out the most on YouTube and on Instagram. So you guys can definitely find me and get personal with me there.
Awesome. And all that'll be in the show notes. Selina, can you leave the audience with just one last encouraging word?
Yes. A word: persistence. Persistence. Keep going. Keep going. Stay persistent. Keep going. And little by little, time will pass and you will figure it out. Everything is figure outable. Persistence. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. It's been amazing to have you on the show. Thank you so much. I just really appreciate having you here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And I hope everybody got some value out of this. And it was so fun being with you guys.
Do you have big dreams but no idea how to get there? Do you struggle with accomplishing the things that are most important to you? If you answered yes to those questions, I would like to offer you my free workbook called How to Get Unstuck, a free guide on how to get unstuck and live your dreams. This resource is full of tactics I use to help get me unstuck, and I believe that they will do the same for you. You can download this free guide on my blog at youarecreativeforce.com. The show notes for today's episode are available on my blog at youarecreativeforce.com, as well as other resources and inspiration to go after your dreams.